Welcome to the Ultimate Town Hall 10 Upgrade Priority Guide. We're going to go over all of your upgrade priority for your buildings, for your hero equipment, and for the troops in the laboratory. And then we're going to wrap up this video with a couple of war bases for you guys to use. But with that, let's jump right in. So of course, the point of the upgrade guide is to help you guys figure out what is going to be the more helpful things for you to upgrade first. So looking at buildings to start off, and everything's going to be higher priority to the left of the base here that I've set up. And I'll explain this a little bit more as we go. The way this base is designed is for helping basically sort out what you should upgrade first. So let's start over here with the laboratory. The laboratory should be one of the first buildings that you upgrade when you go up to Town Hall 10. And even though it doesn't make a difference for the troop boost anymore, you still want to get that upgraded so you could start working on your troop upgrades as soon as possible. And you'll notice a trend every time I do an upgrade priority guide, and it's not going to be any different for this one or in any of the future ones. Offense is always going to be a top priority. So in this case, it's going to be the laboratory, and then it's going to be the army camps. And then of course, once you've got the dark elixir, you can also upgrade your heroes at the same time. You want to get those leveled up as quickly as you can. The reason offense is such a big deal, it's not only going to make life easier for you in your clan wars, but it's also going to make farming easier because you're going to have a stronger offense and you can get more loot faster, and it's just going to help you upgrade your base faster when you can get more loot. So after the heroes, the laboratory, the army camps, you're going to want to start unlocking your new troops. You've got a new level for the barracks and the dark barracks, and then of course you want to get your blacksmith leveled up as well so that you can continue to work on the hero equipment, because just like the heroes, that is going to be very important. And then the things following up after that, you're going to want to get your new spells unlocked. You got a new level for the dark spell factory and the spell factory, and then you're going to want to get your clan castle leveled up. So everything here on the left side is going to be your highest priority. All of your offensive stuff, you want to get that done first, and your heroes are included in that. They're just kind of off to the side because you can actually upgrade your heroes at the same time because they don't take the same resource. All the offensive stuff takes elixir, where the heroes take dark elixir. So as long as you got a hero available, you can kind of do both at the same time. They're not competing for the same resource. All right, now for the walls, you can kind of see they're all over the base here. I like to still put them in groups of 5 at this level because I still like to upgrade them 5 pieces at a time. Now that is going to change in future guides, but for now, I still think this is the most efficient way to do that. And I would say for wall upgrades, you can kind of upgrade these as you go. I wouldn't necessarily do them like all at the same time. Like I wouldn't try to push them for last because you're going to be ready for the next town hall level. So I'd do them kind of early on, but just as you go. While you're doing your offensive stuff and your heroes, it's a great time to do walls because you're not really going to be putting gold into other things, or at least you don't really need to be unless you're buying some of the new buildings that we'll talk about later on. You can buy your new defenses when you start working on defenses, but while you're still focused on offense, you could take all that gold that you're using, or all the gold that you're getting, and put it into walls so it's not going to waste. But once you're done with your offense, it's time to move on to defenses, and these are the defenses that I would recommend doing first. And also another little side note here, you do have the traps in the core of the base, which we will talk about after the defense. But if you want to, and because maybe you don't want to upgrade your defenses too early to try to keep your war weight lower or whatever it is, you can do your traps before the defenses if you want to. That way you can put your gold into that and then do your defenses kind of last. That way you're not getting matched too heavily in war. I will say, as I've said before, war weight is not as important as it used to be. So I personally would just go ahead and jump on defenses first. But if you want to, like I said, the option's there to do traps. But let's talk about defenses now. And that also leads me into saying I would just go ahead and upgrade your heaviest defenses first. I would do the Inferno Towers first. They're going to help protect the loot on your base, and that is the biggest reason. It's also going to help you get actual defenses in war. So getting Inferno Towers done first is going to be incredibly helpful protecting your loot. Same thing for Expos. They're going to help protect against air or ground troops. Same for both of these first 2 defenses. After that, I do recommend doing the air defenses. Dragons are going to continue to be a very strong troop and a very commonly used troop, especially down at these levels. So you want to get those air defenses up nice and early. And then we're actually going to switch gears and go for the Wizard Tower. At Town Hall 10, you do start to see more spammy ground attacks. So you're going to start seeing, obviously, the miners, the bowlers, the witches, all those things become a lot more common. And that's why the Wizard Towers, I think, are going to be a bit of a higher priority than they might have been in previous Town Hall levels. Then after that, we have the Archer Towers. They do target air and ground, which is going to be very helpful. Same for the Hidden Teslas. In fact, I could even swap around to the Hidden Teslas. You could do those before the Archer Towers, which might even be better. But either way, both of these are going to be very good to do at this point. because they target both air and ground. And the Teslas are actually really nice to upgrade earlier on because the attackers can't see what level your Teslas are. So that could be a nice little surprise on defense. Then once all that's out of the way, the bomb tower is going to be very helpful. Again, same reason for the wizard towers. However, they're a lot less of a priority because balloons are going to be a lot more common at Town Hall 10. So wizard towers are going to be a much higher priority, but the bomb towers are still going to be really nice against those spammy ground attacks that you're going to start seeing a lot more of. Then after that, sweepers are going to be really helpful for more dragon attacks. And then you've got the cannons, and then finally the mortars. Now, I will say at this point as well, if you didn't do your traps yet, I would recommend stopping with defenses at the cannons and then do your traps before the mortars, because at this point in the game, mortars just aren't that helpful. So it's better to go ahead and move over to the traps and get these done before your mortars. Now, as far as traps go, the Skelly spells are going to be your best friend. Get your extra one unlocked and then get them all leveled up. And then after that, you do have that spring trap there. The spring trap's also going to be very helpful. And then seeking air mines for the dragons. I've already mentioned the spammy ground attacks. That's where the giant bombs are going to be really helpful. And then you do get the extra air bomb. The air bombs don't get any new levels, but you get the one new one. I'm trying to click off of these, but that's not working out very well. Anyway, we do have the mini bombs here on the very back thing. That's going to be your last trap to worry about. I would still do the mini bombs before I would do the mortars, regardless of how you do your upgrades here. And then on the top side of the base here, we can see that these are all the buildings that don't get new levels. It's basically just the storages and the air bombs. And then over here, all of these collectors do get levels. I would consider these to be very low priority, except maybe the Dark Elixir Drill. The new level Dark Elixir Drill does help get some Dark Elixir a bit faster, and that is the most precious resource. So if anything, I would say do the Dark Elixir storages relatively early on, but I would not be super worried about the gold mines and the elixir collectors. The amount of help that they give you for resources is very minimal. So you could do those dead last, or you could even just leave them be and then move on to Town Hall 11. I would even say is a good suggestion. But if you want to 100% your base, then these would be the last things that you do. Next up, let's talk about hero equipment at Town Hall 10. Before we do that, if you guys are finding this video helpful, I do appreciate it if you hit subscribe down below. It does help out the channel quite a bit. All right, for hero equipment, we do still have just the 2 heroes for now. Of course, that'll change for Town Hall 11. But for Town Hall 10, looking at the Barbarian King, if you have the Giant Gauntlet and the Spiky Ball, those are really good equipment. You could run Giant Gauntlet and Spiky Ball, or you could use just one of those if you only have one of the epics. If you only have one epic, you could run the Rage Gem as your second hero equipment for the Barbarian King. Or if you have both of them, you could still run just Giant Gauntlet and Rage Gem, or Rage Vial rather. And those are that's still going to be your best combination, period. Now, if you don't have those epic equipments because they are behind a paywall now, if you missed those events where they were free, then I would recommend doing the Vamp Stash and the Rage Vial. The Rage Vial is basically going to be a no-brainer. That is 100% going to be one of your King's equipments. However, the others are kind of swappable. Now, I've been doing lots of air attacks on my Town Hall 10. That's why my King has the Vamp Stash. The King stays on the outside of the base and he stays alive forever. The Vamp Stash is incredibly helpful. However, if you're going to be doing lots of ground attacks, you might find the Earthquake Boots to be incredibly valuable. They do lots of damage to the defenses when you pop their ability, and they obviously open up the walls, so you don't have to worry about bringing like an extra jump spell, or you don't necessarily need a log launcher to open up the walls for your heroes. You just pop on the Earthquake Boots, and then that'll give you at least the initial entry, or maybe pop it somewhere in the middle of the base, get some damage on defenses, and get a nice big hole in the base where the walls were. So that's basically how you would decide between these. If you want to do air attacks, the Vamp Stash is going to be your friend. If you're going to do ground attacks, Earthquake Boots are probably a better bet. That doesn't mean the Vamp Stash is necessarily bad for ground attacks or vice versa. I would say just mess around with them and see which one you prefer better and which one's working better for you. But in my opinion, those are the ones that you want to look at. Now, the Barbarian Puppet, I wouldn't personally use. However, if you do want to use the Earthquake Boots, you could pair the Earthquake Boots with the Barbarian Puppet, because obviously the King spawns all the Barbarians, and then the King gets the extra benefits that you see here on the screen. And it's moving over to the Archer Queen. She has even fewer choices at this level. She doesn't get the Healer Puppet. She does have the potential to have the Frozen Arrow, which if you do have the Frozen Arrow is pretty nice, especially if you're doing Queen Charge attacks. So if you're doing Queen Charges, I would recommend the Invis Vial and the Frozen Arrow. If you're not doing Queen Charges, the Frozen Arrow is still nice for slowing down defenses, enemy heroes, or CC troops, so it's still a nice thing to run. Now, if you don't have the Frozen Arrow and you're doing air attacks, more specifically dragon attacks, I really like the Giant Arrow for taking down air defenses. You could shoot the giant arrow through the base, and you can use some earthquakes to take out the air defenses that are in the base. Even if you're not doing dragon attacks, you can use the giant arrow with some earthquakes, maybe even some lightning spells, and snipe out some buildings through the middle of the base, and that's actually quite a bit of fun with the giant arrow. Now, if you're running the giant arrow, it doesn't make much sense to use the invis vial, so I would just go with the archer puppet for the extra damage for the queen, and then she gets the archers to help out there on the outside of the base. The reason the invis vial is not super helpful with the giant arrow is because 9.9 times out of 10, you're popping the giant arrow immediately, and the queen's not even being targeted by any defenses at that point anyway. So, giant arrow, if you're running that, definitely run the archer puppet. Now, if you're not running dragons and you're not trying to snipe buildings out of the core of the base, the old school queen ability is going to be the best option. Use the invis vial, use the archer puppet, and then when the queen's in trouble, she'll pop the invis vial, and then the archer spawn, and then just like good old queen has been for years, it works out perfectly. And then of course, if you do happen to have that frozen arrow, I would just pair the frozen arrow with the invis vial. Next, let's talk about the troop upgrades in the laboratory. We're gonna take a look at the troops here that are available for Town Hall 10. Laboratory, of course, on this account is maxed out. So let's talk about what you should upgrade first. So the first thing is, if you're planning to use either the barbarian puppet or the archer puppet, whichever one of those puppets you're using, you should prioritize doing the archer or the barbarian first, because that's going to directly affect the level of archers or barbarians that come from the king or queen's ability if you're using one of those puppets. If you're not using the archer puppet or the barbarian puppet, then both the archers and the barbs should basically go to the end of the list. After that, the first troop that I would suggest is going to be very similar to my previous upgrade guide, where I'm going to recommend doing the dragon first, because you can upgrade the dragon to the new level, and then you immediately have a basically fully strength Town Hall 10 army, because it's going to be just dragons and balloons. Balloons don't get a level at this Town Hall level, so just like that, you got an amazing army for war attacks, you've got an amazing army for farming, and then that's going to help you to build up your other armies. Even if you're interested in doing ground smash attacks over dragon attacks, this still gives you a better farming army. That way you can build up your ground smash attacks, because the smash attacks are going to require more troops to be upgraded before you have a full strength army. Now, after dragons, that's kind of it. If you want to stick with dragon attacks, maybe you want to put some baby dragons in for support, you can upgrade the baby dragon after that. Or if you want to do some minions for cleanup, you could upgrade the minions. Otherwise, I wouldn't prioritize those too heavily. Same for the lava hound. If you like running lava hounds with your dragon attacks, then definitely go for it at this point. Otherwise, it's time to move on to the ground smash troops. Also, I want to mention at this point, I'm going to keep saying it depends on what attack strategies you like to do or want to do. If you're thinking you don't know what types of attack strategies you want to try, or what attacks you're going to be doing is like your main attack, I will be doing some attack strategy video guides after this video. They will be coming up very shortly if they're not out already. Now, after the dragons, the first ground smash troop you're going to want to do is the golem. The golem is almost universal for all the ground smash attacks as a support troop. It's going to tank a lot of damage, and most of these next attacks are going to require a golem in the army to help do some tanking. So the troops to prioritize in this group of troops are going to be for all the different ground smash attacks. So the next troops you should do depend again on what army attack strategy you want to do. So I would recommend doing bowlers, witches, miners, hog riders, P.E.K.K.A.s, or Valkyries, and these are going to be all the best ground troops at Town Hall 16. One of the strongest ground attack strategies at this level is going to be Bowler Witch. So if that's what you're going to roll with, I would obviously upgrade the witches and then the bowlers, and then you're going to already have the golem for that. So you have golems, witches, bowlers. That's pretty much the whole army. If you're going to be running a siege barracks in any of your armies, I would recommend doing the wizards fairly early on, because if you upgrade the wizards, that's going to make the siege barracks a bit stronger, because the wizard that comes out of there is going to be whatever your level of wizard is. So again, from that group that I just said, upgrade whatever your main army is going to be, or whatever it is you want to try next. Bowler witches are going to be really good to go with. Just witches in general are very strong. If you're going to go with like Queen Charge Hybrid or Miners, then you definitely want to do obviously the Miners and the Hog Riders. I do believe Queen Charge Miners is really strong at Town Hall 10. Just Queen Charge with a bunch of miners on the back end of the base, and then same thing for Hybrid, it's pretty good as well. If I were to put any of those troops kind of lower on the list, it would be the P.E.K.K.A.s and the Valkyries. Those are definitely a lot less common at Town Hall 10, so I wouldn't prioritize those as highly unless that's like something specifically you want to use. And that's pretty much it. Something you want to make sure you upgrade before you move up to Town Hall 11, if you didn't already do it, is going to be the Lava Hound and the minions, just because those are going to be troops that are going to be important later on. So you don't want to go up to Town Hall 11 before you have your Lava Hound upgraded and your Minion upgraded, because again, those are going to be important. You're going to see some very different attack strategies coming up when we move on to Town Hall 11. And then some troops that you don't really need to worry about. You can upgrade them either dead last or just don't worry about upgrading them at all. And those are going to be all the troops that I haven't mentioned yet, which is going to be the Giant, the Goblin, and then if you didn't upgrade the Archer or Barbarian, I would put them in this list as well, because if you're not using the puppets, they're just not going to be that important. There is one last troop I forgot to mention. That's the Wall Breaker. Actually does get another level. I would do the Wall Breaker if you're going to be doing basically queen charges is going to be the biggest thing for Wall Breaker. So if you're doing queen charges, definitely upgrade the Wall Breaker, and you're probably going to want to upgrade the Baby Dragon as well, because it's going to help guide the queen charge. So if you're doing queen charges, prioritize Baby Dragon, prioritize Wall Breaker, maybe even the Wizard as well, because you're going to want more support for the queen charge. Let's wrap up this video with some war bases. Also, if you guys want to copy this base here as sort of a template for your upgrades, that link will also be down in the description below. My base is maxed out here, but what I usually do when I actually follow these templates is I'll have everything that's not upgraded laid out like this, and then once I actually upgrade something, I'll just take it and then move it over here to group it up with the stuff that is already maxed out. And that's how I kind of keep track of my upgrades. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of these war bases. This here is going to be base number 1. Also, shout out to WBB, my partner, for providing these bases as well. Base number 2 and base number 3. That's going to be a wrap for this video. Hope you guys did find it helpful. Keep an eye out for the Town Hall 10 attack strategy guides. Those will be coming out very soon. In the meantime, I recommend checking out this video right here.